There are two such creatures on Earth. What about their rank? They are brothers or distant brothers. One of them was jealous of the other's strength. He did not hesitate to succumb to demonic ways and merge with dark forces. Hey, I'm not talking about the fake-named Lin Ji. It's not like Dio Brando is inhuman. Instead, it was originally Grain that merged with the Anti-Fan army, transformed into a lonely commoner. The brother who beat him to the point of being inhuman. That is the famous Rice. As the saying goes, each version has its own God-tier version. But this statement doesn't apply when it comes to rice. Since the rice has been regenerated, it has always been a T0 level version. Stop 1 from becoming 2, and 2 from becoming 3. From the 3, all things are born. There are 3 major enterprises in the world's agriculture. China in East Asia is one of them. Ancient Chinese people wanted to have enough to eat, to obtain high calories, and food that is easy to find. The grass, to be precise, is the slender kind, the most typical grass with few branches. The vast majority are Poaceae plants. These plants, starch-rich grass seeds will grow on its head because of the blooming season and the undergraduate's flower buds. They are all cone-shaped fluff, seed-like inflorescence. The fragmented fluff is gathered here. Therefore, collecting grass seeds is very convenient. What Oxford grass? Both horsetail grass and foxtail grass can be turned into food. Wild trails growing in swamps. Its seeds are noticeably plumper than those of other hemp. Nature was also something that humans gathered and consumed. Wanyan County, Jiangxi Province, dating back 12,000 to 10,000 years ago. Xianrending and Diatonghuai site. A large number of wild trails were discovered, and similar to the supporting subregistration pool. As human demand for rice continues to increase, collect grass seeds. It's only natural to plant more rice. A son from Yukantai, Daoxian County, Hunan Province, dating back 8,000 years. Primitive types of cultivated rice have been discovered. Cultivated rice is older than wild rice. Wild rice with larger seeds when the temperature drops. The surface part will die. It can continue to grow in the second year. Cultivated rice only has a lifespan of 1 year. There is also a very important difference.
We need to look at the map.
This is the growing range of wild rice. You'll find it's more biased towards the southwestern part of China. Southeast Asian regions. The temperature in these areas is even hotter than during the Asian Games. Even if you are from the warm Jiangnan region, it's still not very suitable for rice. One region's water and soil nurture its people. 8,000 years ago. As the Earth's temperature gradually decreases, 2 important divisions have emerged within the channel: cultivated rice and fairy rice. In Wu-Rong district of Suzhou 6,000 years ago, straw sandal race site. The earliest ones were discovered as soon as they arrived. As is well known, everything north of Guangzhou is considered the north. Compared to traditional cultivated rice cultivation, the most prominent feature is less demand for sunshine hours. More cold resistant, it is more commonly planted north of the Yangtze River. Their growth and development are also slower. Egg seeds can only be planted once a year. They are short, thick, and round. Who would look at such details for no reason? Ultimately, it depends on how it tastes. It has a lower content than amylose. Therefore, it should be softer and more chewy. First, to be more heat resistant. Therefore, it is more widely planted south of the Yangtze River. Even more outrageous is, they prefer hot and humid environments. It can make them grow and develop extremely fast. 2 or even 3 harvests a year. The output was astonishing. The seeds are also longer and thinner because of its high vegetable starch content, so they taste harder. Which one do you all prefer? Cultivated rice and fairy rice. The main difference lies in the taste and temperature. The distinguishing point is rice. There is another way to classify rice. The distinguishing point is water. Wild rice is an early crop, you should know. Water is necessary for growth and development.
Some friends said.
Warm places generally have more rain. My home is in Myenbe. Come over and see if we need water. Oh, don't forget the water level. The mountainside at horizontal level simply cannot retain water. Therefore, based on different cultivation land, rice was domesticated into new types, can be planted and grown directly on the land, known as dryland rice, suitable for planting in mountainous areas. Due to the harsh growth challenges, constantly tormenting dryland rice, this means their output isn't very high. Rice adapted to the choices made by our ancestors. That's the most numerous and typical group in rice. There are fans. I like farming in India and Bangladesh. Consumption in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. There's so much water there, it's as high as Lifu. Crops may be completely submerged by floods. Then you'll have to plant deep-water rice. Deep-water rice was submerged by floods. The will to survive will cause deep-water rice to grow rapidly. He grew taller by leaps and bounds. Simply float the leaves to the surface to carry out normal physiological activities. After the water recedes, the part that was originally hidden underwater will collapse. The part that was originally floating on the surface of the water grew normally. Therefore, deep-water rice. It can be planted in water depths of 50 centimeters or more, also known as floating life rice. After harvesting and separation.
Why?
Why is the rice brown? Aren't they all white? Don't rush, this is just rice. After the rice is ground with sticks and stone troughs, what happens? You can get the brown rice we commonly see. Brown rice is then milled into polished rice.
Cook the cleaned rice into rice.
Based on their viscosity, they can be divided into two categories. Non-stick ones are generally referred to as 3 meters. Amylose content, less than 2. The soft and sticky texture is called glutinous rice. In ancient times, the processing and grinding manager's efficiency is really too low. Is this how you ask for favors? Most can only eat brown rice. 2,300 years ago, rice spread from the Korean peninsula to Kokorajima Island in Japan. It gradually spread northwards to the rest of Japan. Compared to chopsticks, rice, especially fragrant rice, that's the emperor's special food. Ordinary people need to eat. It's too extravagant to wear it. But when wisdom comes first, there's a way to make rice accessible to ordinary people. That means joining the army. This staple food. They were on par with the nobility of the old era. But what about the side dishes? It's still the traditional aristocratic way. Pickled vegetables and plums can only be made by machine. Severe lack of carbohydrates and fruits and vegetables protein. Very unbalanced nutrition. Vitamin B1 deficiency. This resulted in many videos being infected with athlete's foot. It can lead to neurasthenia, lower extremity edema, arrhythmia, even death. Army Road believes that beriberi is related to bacteria. Keep sterilizing. In addition, the army follows the rice and elemental ace, just as addictive as honey. As a result, the dead vessel became entangled. Navy officer Maduz believes beriberi is related to nutrition. Oh, and the Navy salaries are relatively high. Can eat some soy meat. I finally got a treatment for athlete's foot. Vitamin B1 was not discovered in Europe until 1911. Once you understand why, you'll know what to supplement. Eating some brown rice and whole grains will solve the problem. Does rice itself contain any of the unique characteristics of other grains? Gu refers to rice rats and rice plants. Not blood brothers, but the amazing people of West Africa cultivate a local type of photovoltaic rice, one of only 2 kinds of noisy thieves in the world. Africa's piracy and dense river networks, perfect for tracking African thieves. After the Spanish arrived here, I think this is a profound philosophical work. However, 200 years ago, after Asian rice spread to West Africa, it basically replaced the position of African thieves. Thankfully, the African stingray tastes pretty good. It has a nutty aroma, so the locals just started eating by the roadside. Because rice has a delicate texture, High yield. It can be eaten directly after boiling or steaming. It is an indisputable staple food in the catering industry. China, the three major powers of East Asia and Southeast Asia. South Asia, Indonesia, Malagasy in West Africa, as well as Cuba and some parts of South America are well suited for rice cultivation. They are mostly warm and humid regions. But it's so cold in northeast China. Why can it also be used to grow rice? Because of northeast China. It's just cold in winter. It's quite warm in the summer too. Moreover, the northeast has abundant water resources. Irrigating rice is very convenient. The conditions that rice truly needs. Actually, it coincides with the heat. High temperatures and precipitation at the same time will do. However, the climate varies greatly in different regions of the Earth. People from different regions should use local materials. Only by domesticating different plants can we fill our stomachs. Mesopotamia in West Asia. 500,000 years ago. A grain of wheat and Ural wheat. They both had their eyes on the Maize sheepgrass next door. They each hybridized with Lamus chinensis. Timothy gave birth to wheat and emmer wheat. These two hybrids. This direct Dalian combination. 4 times the number of chromosomes were exposed inside. This also expanded the number of wheat germ members from 2 to 4. 10,000 years ago. This place is known as the fertile land of stars and moon. Humans began cultivating 1 grain and 2 grains of wheat. 2 grains of wheat. There is a very famous variety of durum wheat. Durum wheat, as the name suggests. It is very hard and difficult to crush. Not only hard, but also flexible. High in protein. Make it into noodles that look like rubber bands. Why is the pasta hard and contains phlegm? That's because it's made from 2 grains of wheat. When emmer wheat spread to Central Asia 8,000 years ago, it was hybridized with a local wild grass called nodular wheat. Directly expand into hexaploid common wheat. It is also currently the wheat with the largest planting area. Wheat belongs to my hometown, in West Asia. What we see in West Asia now is mostly desert and Gobi. However, it wasn't as effective at blocking sweat thousands of years ago. Mediterranean climate. Mediterranean climate with hot, dry summers. Mild and rainy winters. Domestically, spring rain is as precious as oil. You think it's too expensive, but I think it's too expensive too. If it weren't for the convenient irrigation along the river, wheat could be planted in winter. Planting it is very risky. Although wheat was introduced to China 5,000 years ago, and during the spring and autumn and warring states periods, its status surpasses that of other grains. However, its market share still cannot compare with Xiaomi. Genetic modification is too difficult. However, if we consider the sowing time of wheat, adjusted from spring to autumn, there is more rain in autumn. Wheat can germinate successfully. Wheat leaves have a higher sugar content in winter. It can withstand temperatures as low as 10 degrees Celsius. It matures in May or June of the following year. This is just in time to avoid the summer floods. That's it, isn't it? The 4 months in between. It was right when the temperature was at its highest. The hottest season during the rainy season. Many more can be planted. Fast-growing grains or fruits. Forming a closed loop with the wheat growth cycle. Achieving 2 harvests in 1 year. The result was continuous exploration. From the warring states period onwards. Wheat. Gradually becoming the most widely planted type in northern my country. High output alone is not enough. It has to taste good. Although millet is called a coarse grain. But it's delicious when cooked directly into porridge. Everyone loves to eat. When the wheat was stored, they are all cooked whole. Although wheat is extremely delicious. It tastes good even when eaten raw. However, it is difficult to preserve for a long time. That area in North Africa. Then well make fei mai from the dried, clean leaves. Extend shelf life. However, I've never seen it eaten like this in China. Layers from wheat grains are easy to preserve. However, the taste is terrible. Also, skin allergies and poisoning. Storage could begin in the late Neolithic period. Add a little more force when threshing the wheat. Fry the wheat grains while you're at it. It can slightly improve the taste. However, the public's opinion of him is still very negative. Like bean rice. Only the villager of Kano would eat it, unwilling to plant wheat. It wasn't until the spring and autumn and warring states periods that a great era arrived. This allowed wheat to undergo a major transformation. Minced garlic appeared. The drill bit consists of 2 coaxial discs. The disc has radial-ink teeth on the film surface. Pour the grain into the top 3 eyes. They also used human labor or electric vehicles to push it. What happened next? The wheat grains were ground into chicken powder and flowed out from the outside. These ground wheat grains will still have some outer skin. It greatly affected the taste. You need to make the dough snails using bamboo or cloth. Filter. After multiple grinding and screening processes, sperm flour has finally been born. It can be said to be a collection of human understanding of starchy foods. All longings. Wheat starch also contains a lot of lipoprotein. This translation is terrible. It gives a very dry feeling. We put the wheat in water and washed it continuously. What about the sticky part? It's lipoprotein, commonly known as gluten. It is mainly composed of lysoprotein and basilin. Skin protein not only doesn't dry out, it can also make wheat flour. It has strong plasticity and viscosity. It can be reinforced into many shapes without falling apart. Flattening the dough can make it into a pancake. For example, the flatbread from the Han Dynasty. It refers to baked flatbread. Put it in water and boil it. It turned into noodle soup pancakes. Steamed directly in a pot, it becomes a steamed cake. Cut it into strips and boil it in water to make noodles. Would you like to try the blacksmith's beef noodles? Never tired of being a shrew. Fast and meticulous. The neighboring brewery has received new fortifiers. Yeast. In our area, yeast can be made from cornmeal. You can also use Calabash Brothers. Melon made into yeast containing all the essential nutrients. Recommended at a suitable temperature. When yeast multiplies in the dough, it will produce a large amount of carbon dioxide to make the dough rise, big and soft.
If you steam it in a pot,
starch on the surface of steamed buns. A colloidal reaction will occur in the steam. A thin layer of skin forms. You can make bread by simply putting it in the oven to bake. Pressing it into dough can also make steamed buns and dumplings. Frying them in hot oil can make youtiao fried dough sticks and yupao fried dough puffs. In the Mid-Tang dynasty, wheat can finally be ranked alongside millet and gradually surpass xiaomi, becoming the most important main ingredient in the north. Leibang hairline. A leadership team was formed from Pei County. Demai, a fellow villager of wheat farmers, also made his fortune in the Fertile Crescent. The domestication time is basically the same as that for wheat. However, barley belongs to the barley rat, domesticated from wild barley. Barley bread. It looks like it's going to strain your voice. The texture is indeed not as good as wheat. However, barley is highly tolerant, drought and cold resistant, especially in Europe. There are many mountain organic sugars, rainy weather and insufficient sunlight. In addition, there is a variant of barley called naked barley. Removing the outer shell is very convenient. So, what about ancient Europe? I especially love growing barley. When the large petals spread eastward, it also formed an important variant on the King Heidebet Plateau. Barley is sown in April each year.
September harvest.
Just in time for the arrival of the harsh winter. Avoiding the period when the land turns into permafrost became the only one that could be at an altitude. Food crops planted at altitudes above 4,500 meters. In addition, yak dung was used as fuel, solving life problems. Even among all mammals, humans, they are also among the groups that survive at the highest altitudes. Nowadays, not many people eat barley directly. But what about barley? It can be used for fermentation in the production of beer and whiskey. If you can't drink alcohol, it can also be cooked and made into barley water. Italy in the second generation. Because we can't get hand-drip coffee. Let's make barley coffee by grinding and roasting barley. It's definitely better than what American soldiers drink. One person's success leads to the advancement of even their chickens and dogs. Development of wheat and barley. Also, some half-grown weeds. Zao and became a regular army. In the wheat field, you can see some tall people who look very much like wheat. On the branches, hanging there were some things that looked like little swallows. This is the flat-topped roof. Oat species. Wild oats have two very long awns. It's drier during the day. Wheat awns can bend. High humidity at night. Wheat awns will straighten when they absorb water. This cycle repeats. Wild oats can be shaken like flower hands. Love to wander around. Until it encountered terrain, the sand burrowed into the cracks in the ground. However, oats produced in farmland. There's no need for such a complicated process. Their maturity and childhood. It looks very similar to wheat and barley. They will steal nutrients from the experts in the farmland. Wild wheat is naturally prone to sap loss. But what about after domestication? Wheat ears are not easy to break. Harvesting and sowing at the base. Leave behind descendants. Instead, more oats and wheat grew together. During the domestication of wheat, the fruit also became less likely to fall off. On the contrary, they are more likely to blend in with the crops. This kind of peat. It is called vaviloaf peat. You can eat it as long as it has grass seeds. I haven't even started yet. Your own taming season is already 99 loaded. Being a dog of Homo sapiens is the greatest honor. There are several kinds of oats. Both were planted by humans before Confucius. The most common type of oatmeal is also called hulled oats. It sounds dirty, but actually, it is the seed of the sand. It means that it is very close to the skin of the rotten plant. It is also a hexaploid organism with an amazing skeletal structure. Steam the oat grains until cooked and then crush them. Extrude it into sheets and then dried. It's the oatmeal we often eat. Grown in North Africa. Mostly Ethiopian oats. Are there more Greek and Turkish tuktuk these days? No, I'll pause. Oats are also called red oats. China also has its own type of oat, naked oats, also known as oilseed rape. You can also add hot water to make dough. Make oil dough dumplings. This oatmeal is made just like my rye. Rye is also a representative species of Vavilovnitae. They were originally wild grass. Perhaps it's because of my excellent cold resistance. Therefore, he was appreciated by a noble person. Transformed into crops rye, which is robust and durable, and barley. It can grow even in the dead of winter. It can also be planted on mountain land. It was especially popular in ancient Europe, particularly in the Isling Mountains. Current main planting area. Also in Poland and Russia. It fits our stereotypes very well. Because there is no skin texture. The egg whites should be mixed with the flour. Only then can it be made into rye pasta. It looks like it's going to strain your voice. However, a farmer can afford rye bread. It's not bad. This little rye bug. My thinking is not firm enough. It is easy to merge with external dark forces. The merger of lonely and black jade finance has resulted in a relatively white area. Rye is susceptible to ergot infection. Infected rye will grow a purplish-black color with a purple base. Commonly known as ergot. Ergot contains alkaloids. Humans will suffer from ergot poisoning if they consume it over a long period of time. Causes convulsions, nausea, and vomiting. My skin has a strong burning sensation. In severe cases, a broken sniper rifle may occur. Even fingers and toes falling off. Someone said it was set on fire and burned. Some people also said that they were infected with sexually transmitted infections. Medieval people called him the fire of Saint Anthony. Alas, this is God's punishment. With numerous problems and low yields, who would still choose the traditional black vein method. Scientists hybridized wheat and rye. Little rye was born. 4 times increase, 6 times increase. The 8x boost was even achieved. Current production is similar to that of rye. It can be used directly by people. It can also be used as feed for cattle and sheep. In fact, these various complicated functions, it can be all accomplished by a powerful crop. The world's 3 major agricultural sectors. Central and South America, one of the places of origin. This place is connected to Eurasian civilizations, isolated for more than 10,000 years. Although productivity was quite low, however, in agriculture, it contributed one of the 3 major quantities corn. According to the previous wild beggar version, the concept of domestication of high inversions, the wild ancestors of the large corn cob should have looked like this. Actually, the wild ancestor of corn looked like this. Ancestors of corn. It is a type of plant known as a large weed killer. The ears of grass after the big weeding. It's not just as long as a finger. There are also many triangles. The shape formed resembles that of a Malin sword. The kernels also have a very hard outer shell. It has absolutely nothing in common with large round corn cobs. We are accustomed to thinking of nuclear-related disciplines. One by one, so-called seeds. Actually, it should be called fruit. However, the pericarp and seeds are too close together, cannot be separated. We changed this fruit type to firefly fruit, the film formed by the outer layer of the firefly fruit. This is the kind of thing that flies everywhere when threshing rice or wheat. We call it wheat bran. The vast majority of videos feature plants from this family. Very soft. However, the film's main feature is very solid. 2 films can form a box. Protect the seeds inside. During the cycle on the big tree, some genes have mutated, caused corn to burst into bloom. The seeds inside the physical anomaly are exposed. Originally external film. Instead, it became part of the corn cob. Corn. Sometimes I get stuck on some small yellow pieces. Press down on these yellow parts. It's actually one of the original films. If we crossbreed corn and big tree grass, you will get a very messy seed. It looks and the piece. A strange stitched body, similar to the larger items. This 5,000-year-old corn shoe. It also witnessed the precious transitional phase of corn. The indigenous people still grow bean sprouts every week. Outside each corn cob, films with mutations. Others are a large package. It is still packaged separately. Very high. The corn's body also has many branches, turning into a standout. Other nuclear family spikes on the head. The corn cob was at waist level. This is because corn is one of the few species with separate male and female flowers. Nuclear undergraduate. The corn kernels also became less likely to fall out. It is convenient for humans to directly harvest corn kernels. There are also red, yellow, and white powders. There are 4 variations each of cyan, blue, purple, and black. Put some Debeo cream on your hand, and then, that's so authentic. After the Spaniards saw the corn. I don't like corn, because corn doesn't taste good. Moreover, it lacks a vitamin called hydrochloric acid. Long-term consumption may cause hyperdermatitis. Mexico has revealed its solution. It involves soaking corn in water mixed with stones. However, Europeans were unaware of this technique. Corn was introduced to China 400 years ago. Su Guangqi observed that the corn kernels were smooth and round. He was given a very sophisticated name: corn. Corn and sorghum. Sugarcane, like other carbon fiber crops, is a carbon fiber crop. Its light energy utilization rate is 15 times that of wheat, 2 times that of rice. The yield is significantly higher than that of wheat. Moreover, it does not have high land requirements. If the planting area for wheat, rice, etc. is too small, it doesn't do justice to the complex processing procedures.
Corn can be planted by hand.
You can break it with your hands. You can thresh the grains by hand. So you often see some clearings in the mountains. It will be used as some corn. It's rare to see wheat or rice being grown. In the old era of insufficient productivity, cornmeal is a staple food for many people. Throwing corn up first is ergonomic. It is both easy to ignite and relatively durable. Add a few times in the middle, just enough to cook a pot of rice. Corn causes internal heat. It's really addictive. It just won't stop. It can also be made into a simple pipe. 5-star General MacArthur frankly stated that, "I love taking photos with a corn pipe to look cool. Corn, because its outer skin is very hard. When heated, the internal moisture expands." Popcorn made into white popcorn. This is a very fashionable item. It has a history of more than 5,000 years. Corn can also combine with corn sesame powder. It forms a shape resembling a dark, thick mass. We call it wummy in our area. This may be because fungi have a higher amino acid content. Therefore, it tastes very fresh. It has a faint scent of driftwood. Mexico, the birthplace of corn. He's very good at eating corn starch and gluten. Nickname Mexican black truffle. For most people, besides some sweet corn, we rarely eat large amounts of corn. Theoretically speaking, corn yields should be very low. However, the reality is, the annual corn production exceeds 11 billion tons. It accounts for 43% of global grain production. The plaintiff owns 28% of the wheat and 18% of the rice. Where did all this corn go? First of all, in addition to grains, humans also need to eat animals. Corn can be made into various vinegar-based products. Add celery feed. Even when baiting the fish, you have to prepare some corn for them. If you harvest the corn stalks while they are still broken into pieces, it can be pressed into blocks or barrels. After fermentation, it became boiled feed. Just like wild animals like to eat internal organs, boiled feed provides more balanced nutrition. It can alleviate the shortage of hay in pastures. Using the sugar to make white sugar is simply too expensive. Fructose syrup derived from corn starch pyrolysis. The cost is much lower. It has become a more commonly used sweetener than white sugar. Even Khrushchev not only praised. This requires drinking high-fructose corn syrup. Corn starch can also be fermented to produce alcohol. When alcohol is mixed with gasoline, it becomes ethanol gasoline. Like Brazil, the dry food juice and corn were so plentiful, they were practically free. Ethanol must be used. The majority of vehicles are ethanol fuel vehicles. From Delft to Fornio. From Maize to Xiaomi. Hard-working coarse grains. They accompanied us through the long and arduous years. High-risk, high-return staple foods. It has been thinking about modern human lifestyles. All countries, without exception, they all relied on grains as their staple food. In primitive society, what can a chief do? Find a woman of the opposite sex to sleep with him. Or perhaps you are a perverted, self-destructive person. That's all. If we want to undertake large-scale construction, the workers' efforts were simply not enough. Food can be obtained from the surrounding environment, the exceptionally long shelf life and high edibility of grains. Let him become the concrete carrier of productivity. The more grain collected from the road, able to support officials, artisan. The more professional giants and other shovel-wielding players there are, the more people there will be. On the surface, it is food domesticated by humans. In reality, most people are in the eyes of the rulers. However, it concerns food. Tax data is just an NPC. Working people, locking a lifetime's blood and sweat into the land. Civilization didn't help you when you were farming. Buttons and fibbings for delivery. But during the harvest season, they steal your crops one crop after another. He could have eaten his fill, but he starved to death. The dynasty continued to prosper. Residents were relocated and then wiped out, only when the grain becomes more plentiful. So, here raised the question, do you think humans domesticated food? Or did food domesticate humans? Dynastic changes and land annexation. It looks like a cycle repeating itself over and over again. However, once the wild chain farming and breeding technology was upgraded, it is difficult to decline. Once the roads for communication between civilizations are opened, it is difficult to unilaterally interrupt the process of society. Actually, it's a spiral ascent. Agriculture fed its own enemies. It also allows some people to give back to production after leaving their jobs. Biotechnology, fertilizers, and pesticides. Agricultural machinery follows the profits. Let us now have a very small population. This can sustain agricultural production, although the types of crops in the fields are becoming increasingly homogeneous. The seed bank contains a more diverse range of samples showing increased yields. Regardless of whether humanity faces a turning point on planet Ares in the future, or global nuclear war, people will always believe. In short, it is the cornerstone of hope.